And we are live. Got Derp here with me, Mr. Derp.
Hello.
And we are going to stream Group C of the tournament. Got some good players in this game. We're just waiting. We've got the bidding room set up right here. We're just waiting for the fourth player, Tom is Love, to join. You had a chance to see any of these players play yet this tournament, Derp?
Yeah, I streamed a game with Caitlin and Thomas Love already. I don't think I've seen any of Nun's games or Who's games, but yeah, it was a good one with Thomas Love. That was one of the more interesting ones I streamed, actually.
Yeah. Did he win the game?
I forget. I've streamed so many games at this point. I forget what happened. I just remember it was good. Oh, I think he got the Rusty Patriot or sorry, Albion Patriotic win last round. That was pretty cool.
Yeah, it does look like Tom is Love is showing on active on Discord and has the he's here on he's in the lobby here on Digital Edition. Can't see it on my screen, but he's there. So as soon as we can get him in this game, we will be ready to go to watch the bidding process. Should start any minute. Give some people time to join the stream. All right, now we're ready to spectate. What do we have here? We have Nun opening with $2 on Crimea Mechanical. Let's talk tier list here for a moment. We've got Crimea Mechanical, which is considered S tier. Nordic Agricultural, which is a C tier combination. Tagawa Patriotic, which is C tier as well. And Saxony Militant, which is B tier, but I'd say it's a good B tier. So what's your first thought looking at these combinations, Derp?
Um, there's nothing that like stands out as being particularly too powerful. I guess Crimea Mechanical is probably the strongest.
Yeah, and I don't see anyone who's probably going to be in a position to block Crimea's tunnel, especially early. Saxony Militant's going to take a little bit of time. Maybe come out of the base at between turn 11 and 13. Tagawa Patriotic, I suppose if they moved pretty aggressively, could get there. But with Tagawa Patriotic, you want to really just focus on your engine and your coin production and try to stall out this game with your bid, right?
Mm-hmm. Um, yeah, I could see actually Nordic Agricultural or Tagawa Patriotic kind of spoiling bids here if they're just sort of left to do what they want.
Right.
Because Nordic Agricultural is really slow and vulnerable, but it can score a ton of points.
Definitely. I mean, you can, especially if you go mechless, you can hit 6 stars and about 85 coin, but it takes about, what, 18 rounds? And
Right.
you just can't count on the game to go that long. And I feel like, at least when I've played it, if the stars come late in the strat, you kind of rack up a whole bunch of stars all at once,
Right.
but your points are kind of backloaded as opposed to front loaded. And I can't imagine with Saxony in the game that you're going to just be left alone.
Right. Yeah, I think would you say that Saxony Militant is the slowest to get out of the base for any Saxony combo? Maybe Patriotic? I don't know.
It's probably close. I think it depends on how you play them. Saxony
Right.
Militant can get out of the base turn 11 or 12. And I guess that's pretty slow for Saxony or Saxony Militant. But you make a ton of coin. And because the trade action is over the enlist, which only costs 3 food, as the game goes on, if it doesn't end quickly, the enlist star is definitely a possibility for you, which is not the case with a lot of Saxony combinations.
Yeah. I think I would be most comfortable on Tagawa here, actually. It's been so long since I've played Nordic Agricultural. I don't think I've played it in a competitive environment like ever. It's been a very long time. It's just kind of one of those combos that's been lost to me.
Yes, to answer your
Um,
question, Toon, the Crimea Mechanical does go last in this setup. Yeah, Nordic Agricultural, I used to play Mechless and just hope people leave me alone, but I think the player base has gotten better over the past months. And I just find fewer and fewer games where you can get away with a Mechless strategy. So what I've tried with Nordic Agricultural recently is doing a move right away, getting one worker on the oil tunnel and the character out, producing a couple of oil, and then moving that Tundra worker down to the village tunnel and taking an upgrade on the deploy, or on the move and the deploy, and then you can move the worker to the village tunnel. You can move the character to the encounter and the other worker to the metal, and you're in a place where you can produce, deploy. And then, I mean, it's not amazing. You have no real path to enlists unless the encounter helps you out. But at least it gets you out of the base and it gets you some mechs pretty quickly.
right. That's an interesting opening. I like the moving to the tunnel. It
Yeah,
seems like I saw Joy do that on Innovative recently, and that was really interesting.
yeah. It works well with innovative. You can do it with mechanical. I've seen Joy do it with mechanical. It can work with agricultural. Are you surprised to see Crimea Mechanical this high? Or vis-a-vis Saxony Militant?
No. I think Mechanical is probably the strongest of the non SS tier combos, in my
Mm-hmm.
opinion. Um, it can really just crush games if done well.
Yeah, and there's no one, we talked a little bit earlier, there's no one that just clearly is going to get out of the base quick enough
Right.
to block that tunnel, which you block that tunnel and it really slows down what Crimea wants to do. Because it rarely goes Crimea's way if they seed the center of the board and go with Wayfair. I just don't see it happen that much in competitive games, especially not in a bid game. Saxony Militant is at 7 now, pulling a little bit closer to Crimea Mechanical. Caitlin actually is throwing down a 0 bid on Tagawa Patriotic. I mean, I think Tagawa Patriotic should go for a little bit more than Nordic Agricultural. Would you agree?
Yeah, probably. It's hard to say though. I guess because Saxony's in the game. Yeah.
But you're not going to get blitz in the first 5, 6 turns, 7 turns with the Militant board of Saxony, unless there's a opening that I'm just not aware of. So Tagawa has a little bit of time to set themselves up and prepare for Saxony's arrival. I think Nordic Agricultural, if they're motivated, can actually get to you quicker. Crazy as that sounds.
I think the one benefit of agricultural is if you get those bolster and lists going early, you can become a really annoying target because you get a lot of power in cards.
Yeah, and that's one thing you always have to think of as Saxony, and even as Militant right now, is absent some real luck off of encounters. You're probably not going to have a ton of power. Whereas Tagawa, if they get their engine going, will have power. Saxony Nordic Agricultural will have power. Crimea Mechanical will have power. And it's hard to get that upgrade with the Militant board. So
Yeah, that's a good point.
how do you get combats if you're Saxony here? I mean, maybe you get lucky with a factory card and you go, you know, max worker, objective, list, and you manage to get, you know, find a stray mech somewhere and double up on it. But I don't see that Saxony is just clearly going to be able to pick up combats here.
Yeah, that's a good point. I feel like I mean I typically don't like doing Saxony in tournament games just because of the randomness involved with objectives and cards.
Agree.
It takes it feels like it takes it out of your hands a little bit.
Yeah.
But yeah, looking at these combos now, you're right. Like all the other ones are going to have quite a bit of power, so it's going to be there aren't going to be cheap combats. I don't think floating around.
So with Saxony, you're often with Saxony in position of playing a rush game, but this Saxony may actually be trying to stall the game out, which is going to be hard with a bid of 8 coins. I mean, you make a lot of coins as Saxony Militant, but how are you going to... Oh, and here it is.
Wow, that's that's pretty fair. I think. I think mechanical maybe could have gone a little higher.
Yeah, let's get these bids on the screen here. Copy. It's going to take me just a second to get these up. So based on these bids, of course, we have Nordic at 0, Gawa Patriotic only at 1. Not much difference between those two. Saxony at 8, Crimea at 15. Who do you like just based, aside from the players, just based off the bids?
I think Crimea Mechanical has a very good chance of making that bid. I think secondly, I'm really comfortable with Tagawa Patriotic personally, so it would be one of those two, I think.
So let's talk about that for a second. For me and Mechanical, I find that it goes fastest when you go 8 workers, but you don't get nearly as much coin when you do that. It goes a little bit slower with 5 workers, but you do accumulate more coin playing it that way. If you're going up against these bids, are you playing for a longer tier 2 game, or are you just trying to end it before Tagawa and Nordic's economies can really get going, or Saxony can get any spread over the board?
Well, in my experience, you can do like a really strong tier 2 game in like 17 turns with this combo. So it's not like honestly that slow. And I think if done well, it could be, I don't know. It's often tough to stay in tier 2 though when you're playing against good players.
Right.
When you're trying to get combats because they aren't going to let you have tier 2, you know. Um for the most part. So I don't know. It might be actually kind of tough to do that strategy.
We're just waiting. Looks like we've got this is probably the game over here. It says tournament game. And it looks like we've got 3 out of the 4 players in it. Got none on the buddy list over here real quick. So we'll click on spectate just as soon as that comes up. How's it going, Evil Tim? Good evening to you.
Oh yeah, so I was wrong. Thomas Love, he was in a game where he was Crimea innovative and he reached tier 3 because he couldn't draw 5 in the game. It was actually a really interesting game. It ended up going like 19 turns.
Oh, wow.
But yeah, that was kind of a crazy one. It was memorable.
And he needed a 5 to get a combat.
Yeah. Like there's a lot of times where I was like, there's no way he doesn't have a 5. Like, why is he ending the game? But he didn't actually, so it's kind of funny.
Didn't that happen to him in more than one game? I thought I saw some messages to that effect.
Yeah, it happened 2 games in a row, games I was streaming, where I was, like, baffled about why they weren't ending, and it was because they didn't have 5s.
So Saxony goes first here. Crimea goes last. So how much of a role does that play?
I think that's pretty significant. Um, that might make me favor Crimea a little less.
Oh, I think we've got the game up now. There we go. Saxony Militant, starting out here. I like to open with a move with this combination. See what the player does here. We've got he who on this Saxony combination. And this first turn might tell us something about how they're planning on playing Nordic Agricultural. Of course, we've got Thomas Love on Nordic Agricultural, giving this first move a little bit of thought. So what's your opening here?
Well, classically, it's probably just I was just thinking about that because I'm not sure. I think it's just probably a move to the village and a move with the character out. Um, I think. I typically like trying to get early in lists with Nordic Agricultural.
Yeah. Do you do trade for oil first to set up an upgrade in the interest of that?
Uh, I don't think so, actually. So it's kind of weird. I would have to go through it in my head. It's been a while since I've done it, but
Nordic does elect to take the
um,
trade for 2 oil.
I think the opening I do is move work at a village, character out turn 1, produce, trade for 2 grain, produce again, and then move upgrade. I think move and enlist. And depending on what you get from the encounter, it kind of changes what your next turns are. But then you can do a bolster enlist right after that. Um, I think that's what I do.
Tagawa trading for 2 oil, so both the agricultural and the patriotic boards electing to set up an upgrade. For me, it does a pretty standard produce as their first turn. Saxony produces a metal and a worker. I'm kind of interested to see this game if I can predict Saxony's opening moves, because what I would expect next turn is a trade for a metal and a food. So I want to see if that happens. And the reason I'm wondering if that's what's going to happen is I actually have a 3-minute video with that strategy on it. So we have Nordic using your moving to the village now and possibly moving this character out. And what do we see the upgrade on? I mean, maybe the deploy, maybe the enlist. Is going to go for the enlist. Try to set up those early enlists, looks like.
Yeah, that's probably a good idea. Yeah, I think the opening is a lot smoother when you trade for oil first as your first turn.
Tagawa putting both of those workers on the farm makes you think, and yeah, they do upgrade the enlist. So Tagawa waiting on upgrading those mechs, setting themselves up for a quick reduce into enlist. which quick enlists for Tagawa are not Crimea's friend in this game.
Right.
The more enlists that Tagawa gets out, the fewer combat cards Crimea can expect to get. And we see the trade for 2 food for Crimea. Produce into an enlist coming almost certainly next turn. Let's see if I was right. Let's see if we get a food and a metal out of Saxony right here. Great action.
I actually like trading for 2 metal here and just hoping I get grain from the encounter. That's just the way I play, though.
Oh, but we get the trade for a metal and a food. Next action coming is a producer of Saxony, calling it. And I want to see what Nordic does here. I mean, maybe a produce, right?
Yeah, it's probably 100% a produce.
So you produce here as Nordic. Hey, Chris, thanks for the follow. I appreciate it. You produce here as Nordic, and then what's next? Do you move to the encounter?
I think there's 2 options. You could either trade for metal or grain, I think, on the next turn. Because you could, I guess if he was going to do a mech, he should have just upgraded deploy instead. But
trade for metal or grain, and then another produce gets you to 5 workers and a second oil, and then you move again, some workers on a farm, and character on the encounter, and then maybe move the oil worker to the mountain, something like that.
right.
Comes our produce and our list for Mia.
So Tagawa enlisted the power recruit first, which I like.
Yeah, solid choice for Tagawa, power recruit. Hoping to get upgrades off of Nordic, I suppose, and themselves, because we're not going to see, in all likelihood, more than 1 upgrade off of this Crimea mechanical board. I would not think.
Yeah, Crimea mechanical doesn't typically upgrade very often. Sometimes it doesn't upgrade at all. I guess it depends on encounters and such.
This is going to be a produce out of Saxony to get themselves to 3 metal in all likelihood. And there it is. I know that you often share strategies in the Discord yourself, Derp. Of course, I make videos with opening strategies. Isn't it fun to join games sometimes and get beat with your own strategies?
Yeah.
Does that happen to you from time to time? You join a game and then suddenly you recognize the sequence of moves the other player is doing?
Yeah, occasionally. I don't feel like it happens very often because I mean, like, I don't really post. I don't like make videos or anything. I feel like yours get a little bit more exposure. Also, I don't know if mine are as good.
Oh, you're an
But
amazing
Joy,
player, so I think you're doing yourself some disservice there. I think yours are very good.
Joy, I was joking because Joy in the last game yesterday, the tournament game, he did the opening I posted for Nordic Patriotic in that game. But that was like the first time I saw a specific strategy that I like posted on the Discord, I think, be used in a tournament. I think.
I really like that opening. I'm familiar with the one you're talking about. I found it's a
fun.
little bit vulnerable if you've got a really aggressive Polani or Saxony in the game, but
Right. Yeah.
other than that, it makes a whole lot of coin, and I really like the early enlist it's capable of. If you guys want to check out, I'll post a link to my 3-minute videos in the chat here. One of those is the Saxony militant opening. And here's the real test. I would move 2 workers off of this village to this mountain and deploy a speed mech to the village. So let's see if that's what happens.
No faith in the encounter, huh?
You wait. You wait on the encounter, and it's important to put the speed mech on the village because it's going to be used later to move 3 workers over to this mountain. Okay, underpass.
Interesting. That's a little spicy.
Yeah. This is either an accident or more likely Hugh's own flavor on this strategy. So I want to see where it goes. I want to see what happens with it.
I kind of like that actually because if he wanted to, he could move to the grain tunnel to get more enlists, or he could be kind of aggressive moving those 3 workers somewhere else on the board. That's interesting. And he can just deploy on the village with his next mech, right?
Yeah, the benefit, Tagawa here getting ready to move, probably grabbing their encounter. The big moment for Tagawa here. What do you want to see? Metal off of this encounter? Or an upgrade?
Ooh, that last option is beautiful. Oh, he moved his other worker off the grain. Interesting.
So you take option number 3 over the straight pay for an upgrade?
Right. So I thought that he was leaving one of his workers on the grain, and it would have made his next produce really nice. But he needs another grain now for his enlist.
So the benefit with Saxony as we wait for Crimea probably about to deploy a speed mech on the farm, Tagawa electing to upgrade that deploy, is if you put a mech on that village, you can produce 3 metal, go to 4 workers, and then, I mean, we've probably got an enlist coming up here, but you go to 7 total workers, 4 on the village. That mech can move 3 of them over to the mountain. And the last produce gets you to 8 workers and gives you 6 metal.
Oh, right. Yeah, I see.
Which is enough for your last two mechs. And gives you the worker star. So I'm guessing we're going to see a trade for 2 food here. And an enlist. One of the things that's easy to, that's a little counterintuitive here, is with only 2 workers on the village, going to have to produce 2 more times. And Saxony is sitting at only 1 power. So you need this enlist, and you need to take power off the enlist. Unless you're going to really roll the dice here that the encounter is going to give you some power, or you're willing to spend a turn on a bolster. See what Sax takes. Card and coin, both solid options here. Sax does go with that card option and does take power.
Yeah, there wasn't really a bad option for recruits there, except for build, of course.
I was gonna say popularity wouldn't be great. Hey Symphonis, thanks for Symphonus, thank you for joining us. It's good to have you on the stream. Okay, Nordic looks like they're moving some workers over there now to start setting up their enlists. And finally, grabbing their encounter. Ooh. This is agricultural. You take number 2 here and you're in tier 2.
Yeah, that's pretty nice.
Got a 5 worker strat. Not going to be bleeding popularity. That encounter so often can be a game changer because it just can take strategies that, ooh, look at this. Another upgrade.
Wait, I gotta go 1 sec.
All right. That upgrade, that trade for that food earlier now coming into play. And what did Tagawa do? All produced. Tagawa with 4 oil on the ground. Still having some moving left to do. So Crimea, this is the moment of truth for Crimea. Are you going 5 workers? Or are you going 8? The answer's 5. So I'm not sure why Crimea went right to left on their worker distribution. Talk about that in just a second after we see what they take for this encounter. I mean, 2 food and the popularity, 3 resources, both solid traits options for them. They want to build buildings. The $2 can get them 3 wood, and that's something they can turn around and grab a mill. They can get a mine. A lot of players like to get an early mine with Crimea and elect to go scout instead of Riverwalk for that second mech. Maybe what Crimea is thinking here. Often,
yeah, the mine is actually really valuable for Crimea, something I've kind of appreciated more recently.
the downside is that you have this mech on the farm instead of on your mountain. So where do you put the mine? The build bonus is over the tunnels, so that's a wash.
Yeah, it's not great.
Crimea taking just enough food to spin the combat card and dropping just enough wood to spin a combat card and dropping a food on the ground. So what are you afraid of? Why do you put this mech on the farm? Tagawa's not invading you there. Nordic's not invading you there. Saxony's not invading you there.
I think it might be planning ahead for producing update workers. So they're going to have... How many enlists do they have so far?
Just the one.
Just the one.
So here comes a produce out of Saxony to get to 7 workers and put 3 more metal on the ground. In all likelihood, I would say. Yeah. So the strategy so far has followed what I typically do for Saxy Militant, except that mech is on the mountain instead of on the village. So moving 3 workers to the mountain to get 6 workers over there for 6 more metals, not an option. So I'm sure there's some reason that mech is on that mountain instead of on that village. I just want to know what it is. So we see a bolster into an enlist for Nordic. Nordic taking the deploy enlist. Gawa still having all their mechs to create. Saxony still having 3, so it's still early to get that deploy enlist. The Gawa needs to spend some of this oil, right? So they start moving to the factory. Now with 3 upgrades and the oil, enough oil to make a 4th.
Yeah, that's actually going to be pretty big for them, getting all those upgrades and the power along with it.
Remember playing you in a tournament game recently where you somehow managed to get all 6 of your upgrades by something like turn 15, which just blew my mind. I'm not gonna lie, it was quite something.
It was actually turn 13, but I did have
Turn
that
13.
one really good encounter where you get an upgrade and 2 resources, so that kind of was the reason that happened.
Yeah, turn 13. All right, well, that's just what, an upgrade every other turn or something like that. No biggie.
Yeah, basically.
What's gonna happen here? Saxony moving those workers out of the base. Why do we have underpass? I mean, if you're looking to slow down Crimea, you could always move out to that oil tunnel and deploy another mech there and get your speed, your underpass, and your character all in the oil tunnel. I don't think that helps you much for your economy. Necromage, how's it going with Sax hoping for a mech from the encounter? Sax has not grabbed their encounter yet. If it were me, I would have put that mech on that village, Necro, and then I could move 3 different workers to this mountain, and then use the other movement to either move to the encounter or hold off on the encounter. And then my next movement, if Tagawa's not on that mountain, I could make it to the factory. But I think Tagawa may be beating Saxony to the factory no matter what Saxony does. Saxony taking a long time right now playing this turn out. Starting to wonder if putting the mech on that mountain was a misclick.
Yeah, it's a pretty important turn for them, I think. Hmm.
Yeah, Symphonis. I'm starting to agree. I mean, I wanted to see what was the strategy there. I thought perhaps he had another plan that was going to employ underpass, moving out of the base, something of that nature. But I'm thinking now that maybe that mech was supposed to go on the village.
I think I would move to the grain tunnel. Because 3 food is all you need for the rest of your enlists.
That is true. And those 4 workers on the village can certainly produce 1. Moving 2 units, say the character and the mech, puts you within 2 of the factory, and you can drop a speed mech either on the tunnel to reinforce it or on the village to put yourself in a position to start moving those workers around. Yeah, as long as this turn is taking, I think Saxony intended to do this differently. Now having to decide on the fly what the new plan is. I mean, you could use your move to move 2 workers over to the mountain, deploy another mech. Your last produce only gets you 5 metal, which is 1 short. But maybe you pick that up in a trade. You know, trade for a metal and a grain and set yourself up for another trade and an enlist. Not perfect, but it's something. Lord of the God says move to the grain tunnel. That's what you were saying, Derp, and hope for a factory card to give you mechs.
Right. I think I would just hope for maybe the encounter to smooth out my turns a bit.
It'd break my heart to pay 2 coins for a mech with a militant board.
That works too. Interesting.
That character can go to that tunnel or go ahead and grab that encounter. So if you're doing this, do you put a second mech on that tunnel, or do you drop a mech on that village?
You got to go on the village. I've made that mistake before with militant. It's really hard to recover from. If you don't preemptively deploy a mech on your workers, it can be a huge pain.
Yeah, because it's just not quick. And that's why it would have been nice, I think, to move 3 of the workers to that mountain that turn. Is that mountain's basically a tunnel for Saxony with underpass. And as we all know, a tunnel is a great place to have a bunch of workers if you're wanting to move them around. Now he's got 4 workers clogged up on this village, and he's got to get them off somehow. And even with either Riverwalk or underpass, it's an entire move just to get out on the board in a position where they can be spread around.
Interesting. Goes to the tunnel with the character.
Yeah, I think he's. I think he wants a factory card more than he wants that encounter. Because what we'll probably see is another produce out of him, even though it will just drop one worker on the village, and that sets him up for another move action. Tagawa cannot move this turn, which means that Saxony can beat everyone to the factory and get the first choice of the factory card. Lure the Gods points out that Saxony is now in a position to disrupt Nordic's engine. So if Nordic produces this turn,
Right.
can only spend one of those food at a time. Saxony will have an opportunity at some point to steal some food from Nordic if they want to.
Yeah, the only issue is if they want to move to the factory and also move the villages or the worker off the village, um, they're not going to have another move left to steal the grain.
Right. You'd have to sacrifice some spread, which I don't think you can really afford to do. See whose timer's ticking. It's the Nordic now. I think Nordic trying to decide if they want to go ahead and produce. Almost certainly what they were planning to do. Give themselves a second oil or another upgrade and get themselves 2 food for their next 2 enlists.
What did Nordic get from the encounter? I feel like I missed that. Oh, the popularity. That's right.
Sitting at tier 2 right now. Probably in the lead, I would guess. Sure enough. Even without the bid. But that's pretty typical from Nordic because Nordic gets so much spread so early. We see out of Tagawa just then a produce. Another enlist. I don't like Tagawa's positioning so far. I think Nunn doing a really good job of it. He's technically 2 down on Nordic right now, but he's got his mechs only costing 2, and he's still in a position to make a lot of coin.
Yeah, he's going to get to the factory pretty quickly too.
Whose position do you like the best right now? You had to jump into this game now and be somebody.
Honestly, it's Tagawa.
Yeah.
I mean, they have 2 enlists already. They got 3 upgrades already. They're about to get another one. Like their engine is just running real smooth. It's really important getting those traps down. I mean, the fact that they're able to get past the tunnel before Saxony can really hit them is a huge deal.
Mm-hmm. I mean, we've got to see it produce out of Saxony right now to set up another mech. And what else could you be doing? Trouble with Saxony is the 2 more produces with 3 metal going to drain them to literally 0 power. And in this game, Tagawa's sitting on 5, Mia already has 10, and Nordic has 7. We talked a little bit about how it started, before it started, that Saxony might have some trouble finding combats. Sort of playing out that way so far. Looking at the time up here, Nordic's used almost about 7 minutes. Mia's used about 6 minutes. Tagawa having only used 2 minutes to actually think through the moves in this game. Okay.
Oh, this is interesting. So Crimea got Scout as their second mech.
Yeah, with no mine. Obviously not planning on moving out of the base anytime soon.
Maybe just worried about being attacked.
But by
Saxony's
whom?
bolsters.
Yeah, just a dry bolster out of Saxony. No bottom row action. slows down their game substantially.
Maybe worried about getting attacked by Tagawa.
Yeah, we
That
typically
would be
don't
funny.
think that way, but yeah, Tagawa can Tagawa could attack Saxony. Wouldn't that be great to see Tagawa take metal away from Saxony in a tunnel battle?
That's true. They would have gone down to 1 power. Interesting.
Yeah, I might not have even noticed that, to be honest. Not used to thinking about Tagawa as a threat to attack Saxony in a game.
Nordic sitting at 10 power now, which is putting them in reach of that power star.
Yeah, with see, has Nordic taken the power bonus off the enlists? They have not. But yeah, they can definitely get that power star. For me, it went for that monument. They're sitting at 4 popularity right now. Have they taken the popularity off the enlist? And they have not. So for me, is playing a tier 2 game. Going to 6 popularity right now. So do you move to the factory here if you're Saxony, or do you produce?
I think you still produce first. Well, yeah, because you can. Tagawa just moved, so you
Right.
don't have to worry about being trapped yet.
Saxony produces this turn, moves the next turn, maybe spreads their workers on that mountain tunnel out a little bit, and moves at least 3 workers over to the mountain in their home base. Sets himself up for the last produce, last move deploy, something like that. Saxony having spent almost 12 minutes on their turn so far, which is about 4 minutes more than Nordic, who's spent the second greatest amount of time at nearly 8 minutes. So ever since Saxony put that mech on their mountain, their turns have slowed down a little bit, and they've been giving this a whole lot of thought. Let's check in on the score real quick. Nordic and Tagawa are leading the pack here. Obviously in just the raw score, but once you factor in the bids, it's substantial. Tagawa's sitting on only 13 coins, and they stand to make a lot more coins, especially if Nordic ever gets around to building some mechs. Tagawa, with that patriotic board, hasn't even started to build their mechs. And somehow they're sitting on 6 power right now. Is that just...
Yeah, that was just all upgrade enlist things.
from Nordic and their own upgrades, right?
Yeah, it's a big deal.
Yeah, that's a good point, Lord of the Gods. You don't have to just move 1 space to your home base. If you're Saxony, you can move 3 of those workers off that village up to that mountain tunnel, and then take the factory. Then your last produce would give you the worker star and enough metal for your last 2 mechs. It just hurts a little bit to take a move action without that metal. Alright, let's check in on Saxony, make sure he hasn't DC'd. Saxony is... Send him a quick little message.
I think what I do actually is produce here, move the next turn, move to the factory, and then move to the grain tunnel, um, leaving behind 2 workers
Hmm.
on the village and the mountain, and deploy disarm on the tunnel where the grain is. Because you already have Crimea obviously going for a tier 2 game. You're not really threatened on that tunnel currently.
Right.
And I think, yeah, it'll give enough resources. You'll get 3 grain and 3 metal. It'll be all you need.
Interesting choice here to leave the 3 workers behind on the mountain in your home base and take the mech with you to the mountain tunnel. I mean, I don't guess it's a big deal. Your next mech deploy, you can just plop one down on that mountain. But it means that your next move deploy, you can't move those workers. Can't really take them anywhere. All right, we're about to see our first factory card in this game. Tagawa cannot move this turn. We're probably looking at a Tagawa produce, right? You get the 3rd enlist.
They could also bolster deploy and get like Ronin before they move to the factory on the next turn. That gives them a lot of power. They
That's
would
a
be
good
up
point.
to 11.
Sax has no upgrades, Lure of the Gods, so they cannot produce on 3 territories. So, I mean, maybe Sax feeling kind of threatened on that tunnel. Wanting to produce the metal at home where it's safe. But I'm not really sure who they're worried about right now. Tagawa's not in a position to attack them any longer. Nordic has no mechs. Maybe Saxony missed that Crimea went with Scout, or concerned that Crimea is about to deploy Riverwalk.
Yeah, the main thing is that Crimea doesn't want to lose popularity right now. So it's pretty safe to have the workers guard it.
Crimea's structured their game around a tier 2 strategy, going for 5 workers early, and then when given the opportunity, building the monument rather than a mine. Or I mean, anytime you get food or metal off an encounter as Crimea, they're essentially the equivalent of combat cards when you're going with a 5 worker strat, right? Because it's they're resources you don't have to trade combat cards in to get.
So interestingly, typically this isn't a weapon you can use against Crimea, but because they're going for tier 2, throwing a bunch of workers on that tunnel is hugely destructive to them right now.
Yes. Yes, definitely.
And he got the produce one. I was wondering if he's going to get that. The produce factory card.
Hey, a combat card and a coin rather than a power or popularity in a coin.
Basically saves them a turn and it lets them move their character off the factory so they don't give Tagawa like an easy combat there.
Right. Where do you move your character? You take the encounter on that village?
I think the tundra up on the top, because it puts you in a position to harass Nordic there too.
Yeah, because Crimea doesn't really need. Crimea's still building 2 mechs. They have the monument. They don't really need the popularity off that village encounter to get well into tier 2.
Or if you really wanted to be cheeky, you could just drop off a bunch of workers in front of Crimea.
Just not sure Crimea's who you're worried about right now. I mean, maybe Crimea's about to just take off here. But it's going to be at least 2 turns until Crimea can come out of the base. So here's a question. Can Crimea sync up their last produce enlist with getting 8 workers? And I think the answer is no.
Yeah, no, it doesn't quite add up.
They haven't stockpiled, pardon the term of art there, they haven't accumulated enough food to move those workers to a village and produce the village workers at the same time as getting the last enlist. So it's going to be another 2 more produces for Crimea in all likelihood. It's round 10 and we have no stars. Does that surprise you at all?
That is a little odd. I think it's mostly just the combos that are out there.
Right. And part of
But it is interesting that nobody's gotten 8 workers yet. That's kind of probably the weirdest part of that.
All right, we see trade for 2 grain out of Nordic. Nordic is scared that Saxony is going to take their food. They're not willing to produce and take the risk here, and it's hurting them. Look at that, Tagawa going with your suggestion here. Is stream sniping none? I see you in chat. All right. Crimea surely makes Riverwalk this turn, right? Bolster deploy.
Tagawa might not get a chance to attack Saxony, though. We'll see.
Wayfair?
Interesting. So they're just like not even messing with that tunnel at all. I kind of like that, to be honest.
Do you?
Yeah, because it gets rid of the one way that they can like harass you out of tier 2. I feel like it's such a likely play that somebody just stockpiles that tunnel at this point. I don't know. I guess if Saxony doesn't do it right now, then you could have just moved out on your next turn.
Right. Grabbed that food tunnel and maybe either the encounter. I mean, you've got so much power right now. Crimea just sitting on 1 card, though.
Yeah, that's the disadvantage for doing 5 workers with no upgrades, is he's really eating through his cards.
And it's not as if... And
Or
Saxony's in the
she,
game.
rather, it's Caitlyn.
Yeah, it's Caitlyn, she. And Saxony's in the game and hasn't chosen to go for enlists so far. I mean, Saxony's is surely producing this turn. I think it's just a question of whether they use the factory card or regular produce. 9 coin kind of scant for Saxony Militant, trailing the other combinations substantially. I mean, Nordic has 11, they're pretty close. But Tagawa and Crimea both sitting on 17 coins. Crimea Mechanical makes a lot of coins if you go with a 5 worker strat.
Unfortunately, if Saxony moved all 6 of the workers to the tunnel, they could get their worker star, as well as all the metal they need.
Right. Just think they must not have felt safe on that spot, that their resources weren't going to be stolen by somebody. That's all I can figure. So round 11, still no stars. We could see our worker star this turn. First star of the game, and there it is. Yeah, sure enough, Saxony electing to produce the metal in their home base where no one can touch it. What do you move? You move the character off of the factory and let Tagawa have it unchallenged? 'Cause
I think
Tagawa
the
wants to put a
best
trap on that factory.
right. I don't think there's any way you stop Tagawa from doing that, and, like, because they have Ronin, it's not really like you're making them spend much, um, to do to take the factory. I
Does
guess
Ta-
they only have 2 cards, though, so,
yeah. Does Tagawa want the power star here? Still got 3 mechs to make. 9 power. Upgraded bolster. They have taken the power off their enlist bonus. Oh,
I was just thinking of this move. I wonder if he's doing what I'm thinking.
well, you should tell us before he does it, so we'll know if you're telling the truth.
Yeah, he's reinforcing the factory. Interesting.
Yeah, that came in for you a little quicker than it did for me, but yeah, I see that. Saxony getting some spread and denying Tagawa the factory, which I don't hate that move, and I don't hate that move for a couple reasons. Crimea has to give up tier 2 if they're going to blaze a trail to the factory. And on top of that, Tagawa doesn't get to trap the factory because they can't. I don't think they can feel like it's just a given that they're going to win that fight, and maybe they go for it anyway. Probably a great time to produce if you're Tagawa and grab some combat cards, don't you think?
Yeah, yeah, they definitely need to get more cards before they try to attack that, I think. But the other thing is, I mean, Saxony might just move and deploy another mech on the factory or something next turn.
Yeah. Which would no doubt hurt. You if that mech on the mountain tunnel brings that worker with them to the factory, Saxony could suddenly have 4 units on the factory. Check in on the score here. Despite holding the factory, Saxony's still trailing the pack, even without the 8-coin bid. Crimea now slightly ahead, but nowhere near making their 15-coin bid yet. Where are you wayfaring to if you're Crimea? Rustviet's territory?
Yeah, it's pretty safe. Maybe Albion too? Can maybe annoy Nordic, but you don't really want to send workers home.
Right. I mean, they've presumably done Wayfair, who will be able to keep their tier 2. I think that Crimea has been the power of Crimea. Ooh.
Is he going with 3?
Can only do 2.
Oh, right, he doesn't have an upgrade yet. Interesting.
Is that hard trap too?
Huh. If you're Tagawa here, I go all in on this. Because I don't expect Saxony to want to spend their power here. That might be a mistake, though. It's a very good situation, though, if you win, because then the next turn you can take the factory and gain more power and trap, which is just really, really good. So Tagawa kind of really wants to win this, I think.
Lord of the God says, I like this move. I feel too many people are too afraid to trigger traps. I mean, I think that's right, but how devastating would it have been to Saxony if that had been a 3 power trap?
Or the coin trap, like either one of those would have been bad.
Yeah, it's looking rough for Saxony just because of the coin situation right now. I mean, they're 5 coins behind Nordic. They're 13 coins behind Crimea. 11 coins behind Tagawa. Let's see, Saxony, Tagawa is locked in. Their timer is not ticking. Saxony's the one trying to decide whether to bluff here or go all out.
So the minimum Saxony does here is probably like 7 or 8, 2 cards, no power. Um, I think it's actually pretty likely they do 12 though, given how many cards they have. So it's kind of a tough situation for Tagawa.
Oh,
Yep. Yep.
he took your advice, Dirt. It was painful. That was a good turn for Saxony right there. You needed
That's
that combat star really badly.
yep.
Now you can deploy. Probably deploy on this home mountain base, right? Put you in a position to spread those 3 workers around.
Right. So Tagawa kind of they spent a 3, which was odd. Like if I didn't have a 4 or 5, I definitely wouldn't have spent anything there. Because there's very low chance you're actually going to be able to win that.
None likes to throw
Um,
10. I think he was trying to catch Saxony napping at somewhere in the 6 to 8
mhm.
range.
He kind of showed his hand though that he might not have good cards. I think.
That was a pretty significant setback for Tagawa. And suddenly Saxony 6 ahead of Tagawa, 3 ahead of Nordic. Kind of in the pack again now.
Yeah, actually, looking back at it, Saxony really couldn't afford to lose that because of both board positioning and like just getting a combat star. It's not going to be easy to get them in this game.
Yeah. So we went from having no stars in round 11 to having 4 total stars in round 12. I think is what happened. The Nordics point total is not bad, but it just doesn't look like they've done much. And if we look at their board here, they do have 3 enlists. They have 2 upgrades. But I think they've been concerned about Saxony for a while, and it slowed them down. So Saxony now moving sort of out of position, threaten Nordic, except for on that home mountain. Maybe giving Nordic a little bit more confidence to start their engine back up.
If I were Nordic, I would move 1 worker to a village here so you can get 8 workers on the next produce.
Nordic does not have an upgraded move, but they could upgrade, an upgraded juice, but they could choose to upgrade it this turn. So is that what you upgrade here? Upgrade your produce?
Yeah, probably. Lets you get 2 metal instead of just 1.
Telling my kids good night there. Headed to
Cute.
bed. I like them. Nordic's still thinking about this upgrade. Lots riding on this game. We're into the last 2 games of the preliminary rounds. I mean, I don't think these players are in a position where feel good about moving on. It's pretty important to get at least 1 more win out of these last 2 games. I don't think anyone in this game can feel particularly good about moving forward, taking second or third here on out.
Right. Yeah, it's definitely down to the wire a bit in terms of the points. Nordic already got a power star. I didn't even notice that.
Wow. Yeah, with one enlist to go. Not
The one,
not somebody Saxony really wants to tangle with right now.
yeah, it's just that attack by Saxony there, putting in the 1 power. It makes Nordic's position a lot uh, safer now.
Nordic did choose to upgrade the produce and the deploy. That gives them the opportunity to set themselves up. Tagawa not even thinking about it, trading for an oil and a metal, had a lot of time to think about that move. Tagawa looks like they're definitely going for the upgrade star here.
Mm-hmm.
Crimea turtling all the way to 4 enlist and 4 mechs here. I know you're a big proponent of moving out of the base pretty early as Crimea and not getting stuck inside the base. How do you do that without disrupting your engine?
So, well, usually I do 8 workers with mechanical, and typically what ends up happening is I tend to put, I think, 5 workers on metal and 3 on grain. And the way it works out is you end up having a couple of turns, like you kind of finish your enlists, so that you can move and deploy a couple turns around like turn 10, I think. So it lets you kind of get out of the base and get to the factory.
So overproduce resources and give yourself a chance to move out.
Right, right.
So check the score just a second ago here. Saxony produces, sets themselves up for Mech Star next turn. Crimea now pulling ahead a little bit. 7 ahead of Nordic. 8 ahead of Tagawa. Not their bid, but they haven't even started to spread out. So
That
Saxony,
food is pretty nice.
you take the 3 food or the 2 food? Probably the 3 food gives you enough for your remaining enlist, but I'm not sure the game's going to go that long.
Right, I doubt it. So I'd probably just take the 2.
So moving to this encounter gives Crimea a real opportunity here. They're sitting on 8 popularity. They can bump that Tundra worker, no problem, and then attack Saxony on that encounter village right there. Pick up a combat and position themselves for their last produce star and worker star. I'm sorry.
Yep.
Their worker star. So that's get out of the base, get a star, 2 stars in 2 turns.
Yeah, I feel like that's definitely the move for Crimea right now.
Bring this
They
encounter
too
card
do
back
not
up.
have a move upgrade though, so it kind of strands a mech on the tunnel, which isn't great.
Or maybe your character, because you want workers to go to that village. Or, I guess it could be a mech or a character. Is there any real benefit to producing 2 oil your last produce?
No, it's probably just gonna get stolen by Saxony. I think, well, they do have scouts, so maybe not.
Yeah. Saxony's running on fumes combat-wise. I'm not sure Crimea is where I want to get my combats from, but what are my other options? Tagawa's out of reach. I mean, I guess I could hit Tagawa with a factory card. But then that's just a 1v1.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure Tagawa is actually going to counterattack Saxony on that trap in a minute.
Popularity to build a structure. What do you do here? The armory? Knight asked you take the building here so Crimea can't steal resources. Apparently Saxony does. Sure enough, the armory.
Right, that makes sense because Crimea is most likely going to just take them.
Which I think that indicates Saxony is planning to go for enlists. Oh, that was a factory move. I was thinking for some reason that Saxony could deploy their last mech here, but no such luck.
Yeah, yeah, I feel like Saxony probably should have just went to a different encounter. Uh, that wasn't in Crimea's way for that reason. I think it would be better to have 2 grain here.
Yeah, I think that's definitely true. I don't know. I mean, even with a couple extra power, look at Crimea right now sitting on 25 coins, out earning Tagawa Patriotic. In fact,
Yeah, so Tagawa got Shinobi. I kind of have a feeling that Saxony's going to move off of that mountain over there, though. So
I mean, Crimea has to come out of the base right now. You've got 4 enlists, you've got 4 mechs. There's nothing else to do here. Oh, but they're not going to. No upgraded move for Crimea, choosing to retreat back onto their village. I don't like this. I think this is the wrong call. What do you think?
Um, yeah, that combat from Saxony is a really easy one. So yeah, I think you take that combat because you might have a hard time finding them without losing pop.
And you're really limiting your ability to spread right now.
Oh, he's moving to wood though. That's interesting. Or she, Caitlyn. The build bonus kind of sucks for this game. It's the tunnels one, so there isn't really that much value to be gained from building.
I mean, a few extra popularity helps Crimea because every popularity they earn is a worker they can bump.
Hmm.
But I mean, it's round 14 and you haven't built yet. Are you really going to go for the build star in this game? I mean, that's a 20 plus turn game.
Right. No, I think maybe she's just doing it because she doesn't really need any other resources. She might be able to get a little bit of points out of it by building on a tunnel.
You've got to pick up these combats sometime. And if you're just going to wayfare your way, I mean, there are no combats to be had up in Polania's territory. There
I
are no
think one
combats
other
that you can easily access over in Rustviet's territory. You can't wayfare to any existing players, so you can't go down there where Tagawa is. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was just about to say that the building allows her to gain a little bit more pop too. I think that might be more valuable. Oh boy.
Huh. You were right, Saxony moved off that mountain. I didn't see them going over here.
I didn't either.
I think they forgot that. I mean, that one card, there's a good chance that one card's a 5.
Yeah. I think Crimea throws everything here. Well, maybe.
You're not getting the power star. You can ensure a win with 12. But Sax has already played a 5 and a 4.
Right.
You think they're sitting on 2 5s? I mean, I kind of doubt it.
So typically, if I have an objective I can't or don't want to do, I go for the power star instead. So it might actually be a bit of a pain for Caitlyn if they have an objective they don't want to do. They also might have a building related objective. You never know.
If Caitlyn had wanted to get the power star, she should have upgraded her bolster.
Right.
It's out
Yeah.
of reach now, I think. So I think I throw a medium amount as Crimea here, maybe like 7 or 8. And on the one hand, if you win, yay, you win, and you still got some power left in a combat card. If you lose, your next move, you can come right back and hit Saxony. And because if they threw enough to beat you, they're sitting on 1 power and 1 card. So think about throwing enough here to force Saxony to weaken themselves. Okay. Crimea throws
Yeah,
11.
probably overspent a little bit there. The chances that he had 2 5s left was really slim.
Yeah.
Probably 9 was safe enough to cover it, you know?
Hey Troy Nitro, thanks for the sub. Really appreciate it. So Crimea now sitting on 3 stars. And my guess is doing pretty well coin-wise. Sure enough, Crimea right now is in the lead. They're 15 ahead of Nordic, who's in second place with the unit tiebreaker. So what's Crimea's path to end this? They need an objective, a worker star, and 1 more combat.
They, hmm. I think. No, they could have gotten foundations. There's still a lot of objectives they could have that they haven't completed yet.
You're right. When they had that mech and those 3 workers on that farm, the monument would have been a 6 unit, and they could have turned in foundations.
Mm-hmm.
Possible they chose to save it though. Not worried that anyone was going to win the in the game. You don't typically sit on foundations for very long since you want to spread out after you get it, but I guess it's possible. I mean, this is the point where the players have to just all decide that they're not going to give Crimea a chance to get another combat and stay in tier 2. Because Crimea doesn't even look right now like they have to have a lot of spread to win this game.
Right.
So if Crimea had taken that combat on the village against Saxony, do you think Saxony still counterattacks on against Crimea on the tundra?
Probably not, because they would have scouted them twice,
Mm-hmm.
which would have left them with 0 cards. So that would have been a bad situation, I think.
Gawa, I think, needs to get to that factory to stall this game.
Oh no, not going for the upgrade star anymore. That's a good move, though.
Only 1 short. I mean, you can see a trade for
Yeah,
oil.
from a factory, yeah.
2 stars for Tagawa next turn. Worker and enlist. A worker star for Crimea. 2 wood. Saxony do here? Saxony's last right now, and it's a little difficult to see how they pull out of that. Got 1 power, 2 cards. You have that hard enlist, but both Nordic and Crimea. Well, I guess Nordic has 1 enlist left. That's just going to net you 1 card. Saxony does not have a regular move at their disposal.
Yeah, it's not looking great for them right now.
And you can't really deny Tagawa the factory. I mean, could grab some territory right now and drop a unit on the factory, but you're just going to get knocked off and help Tagawa in all likelihood. mean, Crimea could end this game next turn, right?
Yeah, they could be sitting on like get rich or something.
You bump the worker off the tundra, you attack Saxony on the village, you turn in the objective, and in this case, that's all she wrote.
Yeah, I mean they do have one pop to spare too, so
Right? Crimea's sitting on a 21 coin lead right now, only having to clear 15. One of the things that's so impressive to me about this is Crimea's sitting on 26 coins with the mechanical board, which I know Crimea Mechanical can make a lot of coin. But even by Crimea Mechanical standards, I feel like that's a lot.
yeah, it's interesting. And it's not like Tagawa to even get all their mechs. Maybe did they enlist deploy first? I wasn't paying attention really.
Tagawa, I think they went with that power enlist first because you said something about it.
Oh yeah, yep.
So Saxony electing to trade for 2 oil there. Oh, they do have a 3rd oil on that tundra spot near the middle of the board. Forgot about that oil. Just feel like this game is going to end too soon for Saxony to do much about it. I think this is Crimea's game to lose, and then Crimea's game to win. Well, I guess it's both, technically, the way the expression works. And Nordic and Tagawa are probably going to fight over second. Unless Tagawa can trap the factory, and then that might change things. Tagawa getting 2 stars this turn, and then turning around for a triple move, so picking up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 territories, counting the factory as 3. Tagawa just needs this game to go a little bit longer to get back in range of Crimea's bid.
Yeah, it might too, because if like um Crimea has a territory related objective, I don't think there's many they could actually make with a normal move on their next turn. They might have to upgrade it first.
And I don't think they have higher ground, or they probably would have moved to Rusviet's Mountain. They probably don't have 3 farms, or they would have moved to Polania's farm. Nordic perhaps sensing the end of the game here, starting to spread out. Just maybe desperately clinging to any points they can get. They're in second right now by about 7 and 15 respectively, Tagawa and Saxony. Sitting tied after the bid with Crimea, but in no position to end the game. Crimea in the driver's seat from that point of view. I'll be
Yeah,
honest. Go ahead.
I was just about to say I was a bit surprised that Nordic deployed last turn instead of getting their enlist star.
Oh,
Ooh, there it is.
that looked like Diversify to me.
Yep.
And that was a huge turn for them, because now what we're looking at is Crimea now needs 8. I'm not sure they can int 8 more. So they have an objective to turn in. They could do it right now. Tagawa sitting on 44, 12 behind. Crimea can pick up 2 stars and 2 territories. Bump this worker. Get the send back Saxony's character. He can end it. But I think you're right. I think it'd have to be get rich, right?
Yeah, I was
Unless
trying to
they're
think
just
of what else they could actually do. They can't get someone back. They're 1 power off of that. um, hmm.
And you'd have to really gamble and beat Saxony, essentially throwing no power even if you did.
Right.
Suppose you could still be sitting on foundations, but that seems unlikely.
Yeah, there aren't very many objectives they can do here.
For me, it does have build local. I don't think it's build local infrastructure either.
No, because their monument's next to their base.
Right. Which
They could have
doesn't,
just put it on the other territory if they
right.
wanted.
Build bonus was tunnels, so there was no reason not to put it on the mountain. No, we were wrong, Derp. They moved to the, if they wayfared up to Nordic's Albion's mountain here, they could have gotten higher ground.
Ah, yep.
So they wouldn't have picked up a combat doing that. Mia taking 2 moves and only picking up 1 territory.
Could have also moved that encounter over there. It's interesting that they decided to move 2. I'm surprised they didn't take that encounter next to Rustviet's home base.
Ooh.
Mine, like
Mia
that.
builds a mine, giving themselves a way off. Most of the tunnels are occupied at this point. Puts themselves at 9 popularity though, so they can afford to bump a few workers now. 11 ahead of Nordic. Definitely within ending at distance. In striking distance of ending the game. Seeing Crimea build buildings like this. If you're going for the build star, why didn't you take more workers to that forest over there when you went to Polonius Forest?
Well, they needed the 3 workers on the village when they did that move, I think.
Okay, yeah, that's right. That was before you got the worker stars, so that makes sense. Saxony doing a bolster upgrade here. Maybe sensing they need to be able to... I mean, they only have 2 combat cards. So an upgraded move doesn't help them a ton. Everybody has more power than them. I think this game's already gone too long for Saxony Militant.
It's good news for Tagawa. They get a factor card, they get to trap it.
Mm-hmm. I mean, they're down 15 right now, which puts them behind 1 after bids. But like we said, the game's going long enough now. They're gonna pick up probably this forest. Don't have Toka. Probably this forest, probably this tundra, and like you said, trap the factory. Hey, thanks for the sub, Troy. Appreciate you watching the videos. Means a lot. All right, Sax, what are you gonna do here? I mean, we traded for 2 oil upgrade. Must have had a upgrade in mind, right?
Yeah, I would think so. They could upgrade move and enlist.
I mean, we could be in for several more turns if Crimea's planning on getting the build star.
Hmm. This game's going pretty long.
what we started the bidding about an hour and a half ago. Part of that is if you look at the time, Saxony's taken about, what's that,
Half of it.
37 minutes?
No, not quite.
37 minutes themselves. But we don't really time these tournament games. The minimum time is 1 day on these play and go games, and the stakes are just too high to risk someone disconnecting. I mean, no one wants to see someone losing, because if someone DCs in one of these games and a bot takes over, not only does that probably mean they lose, but it could mean someone else wins who shouldn't have been able to win just by exploiting the fact that bots are terrible. Was that a factory move?
What was that?
Had to be been a factory move.
Yeah, yeah.
Gained $2 in popularity. Not much accomplished in that turn for Saxony. Now you're Nordic. You have 7 workers. And you trade for 2 metal. Going to deploy another mech. I'm guessing on that Tundra tunnel, since that's where they put that metal. Nope. Gonna double up on that Tundra up there. For me, it can hit that spot, but don't want to drop out of tier 2. This is the turn Tagawa was waiting for. Just needed it to get to round 16 to get back inside Crimea's bid.
Yeah, this is huge for them.
Electing not to maximize the territory spread. Still needing to run the engine. Ooh.
What's in the box?
Why the worker on the factory? So that you can deploy your mechs onto the factory?
I also might just, well, the thing is, Nordic has their 2 pop bonus from enlist left, so that doesn't really dissuade them.
Right.
Not sure what factory card they get. Interesting.
I think Crimea is going for buildings here. Means they need what, round 20 to end this game? Let's see where that put Tagawa score-wise. Ooh. Ahead of Nordic, ahead of Saxony. Still 13 behind Crimea. Which, a game-ending turn for Crimea here is going to involve enough points to cover that. Caitlin's really been on a tear this tournament. Really talking about playing Fenris with his buddies. Been training hard on the PC game. Tell you what, the PC game will make you better at this game. My in real life friends are terrified of me these days.
Yeah.
I'm sure you have
I know that
that's
feel.
the same way for you. Nordic picks up the star. 11 off of Crimea. Crimea is still within ending. Still going to have no trouble covering their bid if they can just end.
Okay, so Tagawa produced enlist an extra time. Maybe just to get the cards and the coins.
Yeah, so it's for Tagawa, it's 2 resources is worth 1 coin.
No, they shouldn't have done that. They shouldn't have spent the grain. Look at their factory card. That's your last upgrade there on that factory card.
Hmm.
1 grain and 1 metal, and then you have 2 metal left for your 2 remaining mechs. Ooh, I feel like that's a mistake.
Ooh. I'm not sure I would have caught that, but I think you're right. Maybe just focused on the coin.
One more deploy, and then you get 2 stars with combat and an upgrade with a factory action.
So Crimea is sitting on 2 cards right now. Getting 1. That's the other thing. Tagawa turning in those 2 food gave Crimea a card.
Oh, yeah.
Because Crimea goes to 0.
Oh, they got Wolf.
I wondered what was happening there.
Yeah, I was confused at first.
For me, I think playing a very unconventional game with a very commanding lead.
Yeah, this is quite odd. The Wayfair mech. It's a good use of Wayfair, though, to be honest.
And they're benefiting from the fact that Nordic's in tier 2. Can't really afford to mess with them up in Polonius territory. Saxony, of course, is low power and hasn't been able to challenge them for a while. For those of you looking, Crimea does not have 4 wood there. That's a glitch in the game when you move a unit with resources on it. It temporarily doubles the resources on the screen, but they always return back to normal.
It's a new faction ability, the digital edition faction ability.
Double
Whenever
your
you move
resources when you
resources,
move.
they double.
I like it. Are the other Tagawa, Nordic, and Saxony playing for second right now?
Yeah, I think so. You know, if Tagawa might be able to hit Crimea and send him back a little bit. Uh, hmm.
They don't have Toka or Suton.
Right. Um,
So how much does Crimea have tied up in tier 2? 16 coins. So that would drop them to 61, which is not enough to cover their bid over Tagawa and Nordic. So they can't afford to end with a combat right now, unless... Oh, if you didn't have Wolf, Derp. If you'd left that... You left that mech on that village, Rustviet village, you don't have a factory card. I was going to say you're a factory card away from hitting Nordic on their home mountain. You
right.
don't have a factory card.
I think Tagawa actually has a chance because I still think it's going to be a while before Crimea is going to end. I mean, they essentially have to wait, and then they have to get a combat. So Tagawa might be able to do some shenanigans here.
Wait, did I miss something? Did Crimea didn't build?
Oh, they didn't.
And it's still showing 4 wood.
Yeah, that's odd.
Did I mess that up? Do they actually have 4 wood?
No,
I've
it
got
was only 2. I'm pretty sure.
spectate mode is lying to me because I go up to the screen there and it just shows 2 wood for Crimea. So are you seeing 4 wood as well?
Yeah, but the little chart only says 2.
Yeah. You want to exit real quick and come back in and see if it shows them having built or something for you. And then if it does,
Oh, yeah.
I can do it on stream as well.
Yeah, I'll do it.
Saxony's moving right now, picking up an encounter on this wood space as their first move.
Yeah, it fixed the wood glitch, but they actually didn't build.
Okay, it'll just take us a second to get back in the game here. So why not build there?
Yeah, there isn't really a reason not to. Because you get 2 coins back from it. You actually you get a pop too at the same time, which is so I feel like it's just more valuable to build there almost always.
Saxony's spreading out now. Maybe abandoning their path to 6 stars to try to maximize points here. I think it's too little too late. You're at 42 points with Saxony. You're in tier 1. You're going to cap at about 50. And based on where everybody else is, with Tagawa and Nordic in the low 50s, you have to hit 61 to beat them right now with Saxony. And I think that's just, even if you could magically get 3 more stars, I just think that's out of reach. You're almost at maximum spread right now. Where are your points going to come from?
And they haven't done any objectives, which might mean they were bad, you know. I feel like they had the opportunity to do quite a few when they're out on the middle of the board. Oh,
4 coin trap.
Nordic
Ouch.
taking the hit.
Ouch. Factory will make up for it, but still. Oh no. Oh no. You know, I was going to say this earlier, that if Nordic didn't have 2 workers on that Tundra spot up there, and two mechs, Crimea could initiate a combat with Nordic up there to win the game. They're 1 power short.
Okay, they brought both.
Okay, there we go. Not going to let Crimea have that last combat. Toon's saying the same thing, that Crimea can hit Nordic, but Crimea moved last turn without the build.
So fun fact, if Tagawa didn't move a worker there and also didn't spend 7 power at the first combat, they would be at 15 power at the start of this.
Power star off of Ronan.
Very close to it, yeah.
Well, Ronan would have given it to you, right?
Well, that would have been including Ronan, but you could
okay.
counterattack and get it, you know? So, they could have gotten a power upgrade and a combat star on this next turn.
Nordic within 15 of Crimea. Really wishing that wasn't a coin trap. But I guess better than the popularity trap, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I wonder if Tagawa was like kind of bluffing that it was the pop trap with bringing the worker there.
Tooney asks, what can Crimea do now to end the game? I mean, what, trade for some pop and then build buildings?
Tagawa's right back in it. Oh, that's just, oh, they do have a lot of cards. That makes sense.
Bringing 2 workers this turn.
Okay, I like that. That's a good play.
They want their. I mean, you got to win this. You brought your medal with you.
I don't know if it was necessary to bring all 3 mechs because they could just deploy on the factory next turn. I feel like that's going to be enough. They could have maybe gained another territory elsewhere.
So Nordic loses 9, Tagawa gains 6. That's a swing of 15. That still puts Nordic slightly ahead of Tagawa, but it puts Crimea back over their bid. I mean, this is where some sort of factory card would be really nice for Crimea. You can't reach anyone. I mean, I'm not sure Crimea is going to end this game. I see this game being ended by
Whoa. So Nun's cards are garbage, apparently.
yeah.
That was very telling. We already saw earlier he only played a 3. That's bad. Those 3 mechs are not very threatening anymore.
Yeah. Nordic can counterattack, only with 1 unit though. Nordic gets another combat and they can end the game at will. They still don't have their worker star.
Oh yeah.
But Tagawa
Maybe
brought
they'll end
the 2 workers because if Nordic tries to take that, it knocks them out of tier 2.
Also, they get to rearm the trap.
Here's an interesting thought. If you're Nordic, you are 13 down on Crimea. Crimea needs 15. You're about to lose the factory though, because what I was going to say is you could suicide Crimea at some point, but I don't think you have the score to do it.
Right.
So what are you going to do, Crimea? I mean, I feel like Crimea is just stalling this game and waiting for somebody else to end it, which, may end up working out for them. But Tagawa's going to pick up some nice coin next turn. Hard to imagine they're coming back from 24 down.
Just to bolster deploy, give them a little bit more popularity.
And power. Crimea can reach that Saxony mech that's on the wood space, on the eastern wood space there, by moving from the mine twice, or moving from the mine once and river walking with the village mech. Be better to use the mine twice. That would take 3 popularity to do that. So maybe we see a trade for popularity from Crimea next turn. They have the power, assuming they have a good card, to win that fight against Sax.
Yeah, if they had built with the wood, they would be at 10 right now, which would be a lot better, actually.
Would be enough. I really want to know why Crimea didn't build there. I mean, this next turn, if you're Crimea, maybe you just trade for a pop. Set yourself up to end in round 20. Oh, Toon says that Caitlin says she forgot to build last time.
Yep.
Turn on game warnings. I play with game warnings. You play with game warnings, Dirk?
Yeah, for sure.
I just get too distracted. I would leave resources around all the time. I had that turned off at one point, and as Polania, I lost resources all the time. Roy Nitro, my cousin has over 80 board games. Good grief. A lot.
I think I only have like 20, 25. It can it can add up really quickly though if you count like card games and shorter or smaller games though.
Yeah, it's true. My kids have wrecked my game closet recently. Need to go in and put a lot of them back together. My Ticket to Ride Markland is strewn all about my closet.
Oh no.
You ever played that game?
Ticket to Ride, yeah.
The Markland one, where there's just
Oh.
Germany.
Oh yeah, I have played that.
Super,
Like once, I think.
super stressful.
Yeah. Ticket to Ride is such an anxious game. Like I I don't like playing it anymore because it gets so anxious.
Yeah, in this particular one, I forget the dynamic, but it's you put these little people on the board and then they can run up a straight line and pick up all these points along the way. So it's one of those games where kind of like Agricola or something like that, where it's tragedy of the commons. The longer you wait to do something, the more points it's worth, but the better chance that somebody's going to do it before you do it.
Hmm.
I hate that dynamic in board games.
Yeah.
Because I want to optimize, and optimize means waiting until someone else grabs it. Okay, Nordic is going to use the factory card here. Do they settle for second right here? You can give Crimea the game.
Depends on how many points they have.
Yep.
Well, they
Gonna
could
do
just
it.
win this combat. It's the other option. They could just win. That's actually a pretty big point swing.
Yeah, if you throw this combat, you take second place.
Whose Tom is Love is on Nordic. I don't know how many points they need, but
Bid for Nordic 0. They're down 20. Take away a territory. I mean, maybe you win this.
they could have moved one of their mechs there and kept another territory.
Well,
I'm not sure
it's
why they
7.
didn't do
It's
that.
more than that, isn't it? Because it's 4 points for the star. They're both in tier 2, so it's 3 points for the territory. That's 7, and it's 4 more points to take the resources. That's 11 points. They should win this.
Mhm.
They should win this because next turn they can produce into their last worker. And if no one disrupts them between now and the next turn, they can win this game.
Oh no.
This game. They didn't throw enough.
You could have had it all, Nordic.
Could have had it all. Whew. But great job, Caitlin. Great job. Covering the bid with some room. Okay, so let's run this down real quick. We have Crimea, 81. Bid subtracted gives 66. We have Nordic, bid subtracted gives 58. Or no, 59. Tagawa, bid subtracted gives 56. And Saxony, bid subtracted gives 38. So what you see is what you get. Crimea, Nordic, Tagawa, and then Saxony, 1st through 4th. That was a great game.
That was an interesting one. I liked how Caitlin played Crimea. It was pretty pacifist, but it worked,
A lot of coins where Nordic just gave up. And I think Nordic should be kicking themselves right now for not going max on that on that combat.
Mhm.
But well played by Caitlin. Well, Derp, thanks for joining me.
Yeah, it was fun.
And everybody,
Thanks for
thanks.
having me.
Definitely. And everybody, thanks for watching. We will we'll see you again tomorrow.